This podcast is brought to you by the Center for Economic and Social Development. CESD is Azerbaijan's leading economic think tank. For more information, visit our website at cesd.az. Hey everybody, and welcome to the first edition of AzerEconomics, where we bring you the freshest economic stories about Azerbaijan and the greater region. I'm your host, Tim McNaught, and this week we'll be delving deep inside an international organization that has 153 member countries from Albania to Zimbabwe and represents an astonishing 97% of all world trade. What is this organization? Where did it come from? And how does it affect Azerbaijan? I'm of course talking about the WTO, or the World Trade Organization. Today we hope to unlock the mysteries surrounding the WTO and see what it could mean for the future of Azerbaijan's economy. Now, before we get started, let's go back in time to understand the history behind the WTO. The year 1945. This is the year that marked the end of World War II, the deadliest conflict in human history, which would change the world forever. Towards the end of the war, the United States and its allies began to work together to create a new world order that, economically speaking, would help liberalize and expand world trade. You see, back in 1930, the United States had passed legislation that raised imports on over 20,000 goods, sparking other countries to raise their own tariffs, which drastically decreased the volume of world trade and helped to worsen the Great Depression. After World War II, many countries decided that maybe that wasn't the best policy and joined together to create the General Agreements on Tariffs and Trade, or GATT, an attempt to restrict protectionism by reducing tariffs. GATT oversaw the successful reduction of tariffs gradually from its average levels of 70% at its peak in 1930 to around 3% in 1993. Now that all sounds pretty good, right? However, it became clear that reducing tariffs wasn't the only way to combat protectionist measures and encourage global trade. Countries began using different methods, such as quotas or other non-tariff barriers, to protect their domestic industries. In addition, GATT only dealt with goods like clothes or machines and didn't have rules on services such as banking and IT, which were becoming an increasingly important part of the global economy. By 1995, GATT was replaced and its role expanded to become what we now know today as the World Trade Organization. The World Trade Organization is based in Geneva, Switzerland, and helps facilitate international trade through established agreements and rules that represent the consensus of all members. An important part of the WTO is that all members must ratify the rules in their individual countries, making WTO rules a part of a country's domestic legal system. The WTO also acts as the mediator for all trade disputes. If, for example, a country creates a trade barrier in the form of a customs duty against a particular country or good, the WTO can issue trade sanctions against the violating country. So the WTO watchdog can not only bark, it can also really bite. Now, the WTO isn't without its own detractors. As evidenced by large-scale protests at WTO meetings around the world, there are many people who do not think that the WTO is fair. Many argue that the WTO favors richer countries, leaving poorer countries a victim to large multinational corporations. The threats of trade sanctions can lead poorer countries to weaken their public interest policies, as they may be attacked as barriers to trade. In addition, not every country automatically qualifies to be a member of the WTO, which now brings us to Azerbaijan in the next part of our program. Azerbaijan is not currently an official member of the WTO, but has begun the accession process by establishing a working party since 1997. In order to join the WTO, Azerbaijan has made many positive steps, like working with the UNDP and drafting modern customs legislation that is up to international standards. However, Azerbaijan still needs to update legislation in areas such as agriculture, intellectual property, and investment, and also needs to complete negotiations with all the other member countries in order to join. Another reason for the delay in Azerbaijan's accession has been over whether Azerbaijan will join the WTO as a developing country or as a developed country. Clearly, Azerbaijan would rather join as a developing country, as it would be awarded with more favorable trading terms. However, other countries, including the United States, have questioned the legitimacy of Azerbaijan's claim as a developing country and have not passed bilateral negotiations with Azerbaijan. So what exactly are the advantages and disadvantages for Azerbaijan in joining the WTO? Well, first, let's start with the advantages. Firstly, it would instantly help Azerbaijan to integrate with the world economy, allowing it to export its products into new markets all over the world. Domestically, it would lower prices and offer a wider selection of many goods from foreign companies for Azeri consumers. It would also attract international banks and insurance companies to reduce the interest on loans and encourage entrepreneurship and new businesses. It would also increase foreign direct investment to diversify the Azeri economy and create new jobs for Azerbaijanis. Now, there are also some disadvantages to joining the WTO for Azerbaijan. For example, by joining, there will be an influx of cheaper foreign goods and business services that will increase competition of domestic goods and may put strain on the local economy's ability to compete and could increase some unemployment in some areas. Also, the WTO can only really help a country if its exports are ready when it joins. For example, if Azerbaijan's agriculture sector is not ready to ship its fresh fruit and vegetables to new countries, then they will not be able to take advantage of these new markets. So it's important for Azerbaijan to create these transportation logistical systems and conduct market analyses on where Azerbaijani products can compete before joining the WTO so that they can instantly take advantage of these new markets when they join. As we all know, Azerbaijan is endowed with large amounts of oil and natural gas. However, the future success of Azerbaijan relies on its ability to diversify its economy. The WTO certainly has its pros and cons, but if Azerbaijan plays its cards right, joining the WTO could be a step towards a new economy that would bring new jobs, economic growth, and a more diversified economy. Alright, well that's it for today's show of AzerEconomics. For more information, check out the links in the show description and make sure to leave a comment below. This is Tim McNaught. Thank you for listening.